Ethan stood in the grand hall of the human colony's administration building, his heart pounding as though it knew what his mind tried to deny. The hall was silent except for the soft hum of the alien technology embedded in its walls. Screens flickered with holographic images of distant planets, and intricate patterns of light danced along the ceiling. He had been summoned by the council, and now, as he waited, he realized that nothing could have prepared him for what they were about to ask. A door opened, and two alien aides glided in, their movements graceful and precise, as if every step had been calculated for maximum elegance. They did not speak but gestured for Ethan to follow. Hesitant, he walked after them, his boots making a hollow sound on the metallic floor. He had no idea what awaited him beyond the door, but the tension in his chest was unbearable. He was led into a large chamber where the council of the alien planet sat in a semicircle. Their forms were imposing, their skin shimmering faintly under the soft lights, their eyes glowing with subtle colors that changed with their moods. Ethan felt small and human in comparison, aware of how fragile and limited his kind must appear to them. "Ethan," the head of the council spoke, their voice resonating in his chest, "you have been called here because of a matter of great importance. Your cooperation is required for the survival of the alliance between our species." Ethan swallowed hard. He had been trained for diplomacy, for negotiation, for conflict resolution, but nothing in his education had prepared him for this. "You will marry Zyra," the council continued, "the daughter of one of our most respected families. This union will seal the treaty between humans and our people. Refusal is not an option." The words hit him like a physical blow. Marry an alien. And not just any alien, but someone who, by human standards, was considered ugly. Ethan's stomach churned at the thought. He had heard rumors about Zyra, her asymmetrical features, the strange patterns on her skin that glowed faintly in the dark, and the way humans described her voice as unnatural. He had been told she was highly intelligent and dignified, but his mind clung to appearances, as human minds often did. I don't understand," he managed to say. "Why me?" "Because you are human and you understand our ways," the council said firmly. "You are capable of representing your people while respecting ours. This is not a matter of choice but of duty." Ethan's heart sank. Duty. He had known that being a diplomat meant sacrifice, but this felt impossible. Still, he had no option but to obey. His mind raced as he considered the implications. Marriage was not a trivial affair, even if it was for the sake of an alliance. How could he spend his life with someone whose very appearance repelled him? He was given time to prepare, though time was a relative term. Within 2 days, he would travel to the alien capital, meet Zyra, and perform the formalities of marriage. As he left the council chamber, a mix of dread and curiosity churned within him. The journey to the alien capital was unlike anything Ethan had ever experienced. The city was a marvel of engineering and beauty, blending organic shapes with advanced technology. Towers curved like the ribcage of massive creatures, roads floated above the ground, and vehicles glided silently, powered by forces Ethan barely understood. Everywhere he looked, alien citizens moved with grace and precision, their skin reflecting a rainbow of colors, their eyes shimmering with awareness he could not comprehend. When he arrived at the palace, a towering structure with walls that seemed to breathe, he was escorted to a room prepared for the wedding. The chamber was vast, filled with soft light that shifted in hues of blue and green. Decorations of alien flowers with translucent petals glowed faintly, casting dancing shadows across the walls. The air smelled faintly sweet, an unfamiliar but pleasant scent that made Ethan feel slightly dizzy. And then he met her. Zyra stood at the center of the room, waiting. Her form was tall and slender, with limbs that moved in a rhythm that seemed to belong to another world. Her skin was patterned with faint bioluminescent lines, and her eyes were large and glowing, reflecting the soft light in a way that made them appear to see beyond the physical world. Her features were asymmetrical, with a nose and mouth that did not match the symmetry humans valued so highly. Her hair, if it could be called that, shimmered in colors that Ethan had no names for. For a moment, he could not speak. Everything he had imagined about her had been confirmed. She was not beautiful in the human sense. Yet, despite the strangeness, there was an elegance about her, a quiet confidence that demanded attention. She did not fidget, did not avert her eyes. She simply stood, radiating a presence that Ethan could not ignore. "Welcome, Ethan," she said, her voice soft but melodic, carrying a weight of authority and intelligence. "I am Zyra." He nodded, words failing him. There was a moment of silence, filled only by the hum of the palace and the distant sounds of the city outside. Ethan felt exposed, aware of every small movement he made, every thought that crossed his mind. "You may find me different," Zyra continued, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "But our cultures measure beauty in different ways. I hope you will see me for who I am, not what you expect." Her words were gentle, but they carried an undeniable strength. Ethan realized that she did not fear his judgment. She did not seek his approval. She simply existed as herself, unbothered by human standards. And for the first time, Ethan felt a flicker of respect, not admiration, but respect, for this alien woman who carried herself with such dignity. The formalities of the wedding began. Alien officials, dressed in robes that shimmered with embedded lights, guided them through rituals that Ethan struggled to understand. He placed his hand on Zyra's, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath the bioluminescent patterns. Her touch was firm, steady, and somehow reassuring. He realized that his initial fear was slowly giving way to curiosity. As the ceremony concluded, the council addressed them one last time. "You are now bound," they said. "Your union is complete. The future of our alliance rests in your hands." Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their words. He had married someone he did not understand, someone human eyes might call ugly. But as he looked at Zyra, standing calmly beside him, he could not help but notice the subtle grace in her movements, the intelligence in her gaze, and the quiet strength she radiated. The council left, and Ethan and Zyra were escorted to their private chamber for the night. The room was unlike anything Ethan had imagined. The walls pulsed with soft light, responding to their presence. The furniture seemed alive, adjusting gently to their movements. Strange plants glowed faintly in the corners, and the air was warm and soothing. Ethan felt nervous. He had never shared a room with anyone in this way before, not even for diplomatic purposes. His mind raced with thoughts, doubts, and prejudices he had not realized he carried. He wondered how he could spend an entire night with someone so alien, someone whose very form challenged his instincts. Zyra approached him calmly. "You may feel uncomfortable," she said softly. "That is natural, but do not fear. Tonight, we will simply learn about each other." Ethan nodded, unsure what to say. Zyra gestured toward a seat, and they sat across from each other. For a long time they simply observed one another, the silence filled with unspoken questions and tentative curiosity. Ethan noticed the way her eyes seemed to adjust to the light, how her bioluminescent patterns shifted subtly with her emotions. It was mesmerizing, though he did not understand why. Slowly, Zyra began to speak. She told stories of her childhood, of her planet's customs, of the responsibilities she carried as a member of her family. Ethan listened, fascinated despite himself. Her voice was melodic, carrying emotions that transcended language. He realized that what he had perceived as ugly was simply unfamiliar, and that in its strangeness lay a beauty he had not learned to recognize. Hours passed, and Ethan found himself sharing his own experiences, his hopes, his fears, his dreams for the alliance between their species. Zyra listened intently, asking questions that revealed her sharp mind and empathy. For the first time, Ethan felt a connection that had nothing to do with appearances. As the night deepened, Ethan began to see Zyra in a new light. Her elegance, her intelligence, and her strength shone through in ways he could not have imagined. The initial dread he had felt was replaced by a quiet admiration. He understood that beauty was more than skin deep. It was in actions, in courage, in understanding, and in the way someone made you feel when they truly listened. By the time the first light of their planet's twin suns began to filter through the chamber's translucent walls, Ethan no longer saw Zyra as ugly. He saw her as someone extraordinary, someone whose presence could inspire and challenge him. And though he still did not know what the future would bring, he felt a small but significant spark of hope. The first night had begun as a duty, a burden he had feared, but it ended with understanding. Ethan realized that true beauty was not defined by human standards, but by character, presence, and the courage to be oneself. And in that realization, he found a new sense of purpose, not just as a diplomat, but as a partner in a bond that could change the future of two worlds. Ethan woke to the soft, glowing light of Zyra's world spilling through the walls of their chamber. The bioluminescent patterns on the floor shifted slowly, bathing the room in a gentle, living light that seemed to breathe alongside them. He blinked, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. The events of the previous night replayed in his mind. The stories, the quiet moments, the realization that Zyra was more than appearances. Zyra was already awake. She sat near the edge of the bed, her luminous skin glowing faintly, her eyes reflecting the morning light. She looked different. Somehow, the soft glow and the stillness of the early morning made her seem more delicate, more graceful, more alive in a way Ethan could not describe. His heart skipped a beat. For the first time, he noticed a kind of beauty that was not in human standards, but in presence, poise, and intelligence. "Good morning, Ethan," she said softly. Her voice carried warmth, like a gentle current through his thoughts. "Good morning," he replied, feeling a nervous twinge. He was aware of his own awkwardness, of the tension that came with their strange new reality. Yet somehow, the tension felt lighter than the night before. Zyra stood and moved gracefully toward the window. Outside, the alien city stretched endlessly, towers spiraling in impossible curves, flying vehicles zipping silently between them. She pointed toward a balcony that overlooked the city. "Come, I will show you my world." Ethan followed, stepping onto the balcony. The air was different, crisper, filled with a faint, pleasant fragrance that seemed almost alive. He watched the city's activity below, amazed by the harmony of alien life and technology. "It's beautiful," he said honestly, forgetting for a moment that he had been judging Zyra based on looks. "It is," she agreed. "But beauty is everywhere if you choose to see it. You have been trained to see the unusual as strange or ugly, Ethan. That is human, not universal." Her words struck him. He had been so focused on appearance that he had almost missed everything else: intelligence, culture, grace, empathy. He realized she was right. What humans labeled as ugly was often just unfamiliar. Zyra led him down through the palace, through hallways that seemed alive with color and light. Ethan noticed the subtle movements of the walls, as if the structure itself responded to their presence. The palace was not just a home, it was a living ecosystem designed for harmony and function. As they walked, Zyra spoke of her childhood, her education, and the responsibilities she had carried as the daughter of a powerful family. Ethan listened closely. He realized that her elegance came not just from her movements but from her mind. She was articulate, intelligent, and deeply aware of the world around her. He felt a growing respect for her. Later, they visited the council chamber where Zyra conducted her morning meetings. Ethan observed as she interacted with advisors, solving complex problems, negotiating with precision, and maintaining composure under pressure. Her ability to navigate challenges impressed him. He could feel the authority she carried, the quiet confidence that demanded attention without force. During a break, they walked through a garden filled with alien flora. Flowers with translucent petals glowed softly, and plants shifted subtly as they passed, as if acknowledging their presence. Zyra bent to touch one of the glowing blossoms, and its light brightened in response. "Life here is different," she said. "Every being is connected, every action has a ripple." Ethan watched her and realized that her beauty was not superficial. It was in the way she engaged with the world, in the way she thought and felt, in her awareness of life around her. Each gesture, each glance, each word carried weight and meaning. He felt a quiet admiration growing within him, replacing the unease he had felt before. As the day went on, Ethan learned more about Zyra's people. He observed their customs, their rituals, and the respect they had for one another. He saw that Zyra's perceived strangeness was actually a reflection of a different kind of perfection, a harmony he had never encountered. That evening, they returned to their private chamber. Ethan felt a strange anticipation. The first night had been about understanding each other, and now, with a full day of observation and shared experiences, he felt a new curiosity. He wondered how someone could hold so much strength, intelligence, and grace in a form so alien to him. Zyra noticed his thoughts. "You are quiet," she said, sitting beside him. Her presence was calming, her touch light as she rested her hand near his. "You are learning quickly. But do not worry. There is no rush to understand everything at once." Ethan nodded. He wanted to speak, to express the respect and growing admiration he felt, but words seemed inadequate. Instead, he listened as she shared more stories about her family, her training, the expectations placed upon her. Her words revealed vulnerability beneath her strength, a depth he had not anticipated. As night fell, the chamber changed. The lights dimmed, responding to the natural rhythm of Zyra's world. Her bioluminescent patterns glowed more intensely in response to the dimming light, casting soft, moving shadows across the room. Ethan noticed the subtle curves of her form, the elegance in her posture, the way her eyes reflected thought and emotion. For the first time, he truly saw her, not just as an alien, not just as someone he had been told was ugly, but as a being of incredible depth and beauty. They sat together in silence for a while, watching the patterns of light shift across the walls. Ethan felt a warmth he could not explain, a connection that went beyond physical appearances. Zyra reached out, lightly touching his hand. "You see me differently now," she said softly. I do," Ethan admitted. "I think I understand now that beauty is more than what the eyes can see. It's everything. How you move, how you think, how you are." Zyra smiled faintly. It was a smile that carried both relief and quiet pride. "Then perhaps you are beginning to see me truly." Ethan's thoughts raced. He realized that his initial fears and prejudices had been superficial. Zyra's beauty was undeniable now, not because of physical form but because of her presence, her intelligence, her courage, and her empathy. He felt drawn to her in a way he could not have imagined before meeting her. They shared a simple meal, tasting alien fruits and delicacies that glowed softly and had flavors he had never experienced. Zyra explained the significance of each, the rituals behind their consumption, and the symbolism in their colors and textures. Ethan listened intently, fascinated by the depth and richness of her culture. Afterward, they explored more of the palace, discovering rooms filled with alien art, interactive technologies, and archives of Zyra's people's history. She explained the philosophies behind their designs, the importance of harmony, and the way their society balanced individuality with collective responsibility. Ethan was captivated. He realized that her intellect and insight were as beautiful as her presence. Later, they returned to the balcony. The twin moons of her planet rose slowly, casting silvery light over the city. Ethan found himself marveling at the world around him, but also at Zyra. She stood beside him, her glowing patterns reflecting the moonlight, her posture elegant, her expression serene. For the first time, he saw her beauty as undeniable. It was not just in what he could see, but in what he could feel, the confidence, the wisdom, the kindness. "I am glad I met you, Zyra," he said quietly. "I was wrong to judge you before." She looked at him, her eyes softening. "Many humans are. It is not your fault. You are learning, and that is what matters." The night deepened, and the city below became a tapestry of lights and movement. Ethan and Zyra remained on the balcony, sharing thoughts, dreams, and quiet laughter. Each moment revealed more of Zyra's beauty, each word, each gesture deepening Ethan's understanding and admiration. By the time they returned to their chamber, Ethan felt a transformation within himself. His fear and prejudice had been replaced by curiosity, respect, and a budding admiration. He realized that Zyra's beauty was not simply in what one could see, but in what one could perceive, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. As they prepared to rest, Ethan felt a sense of peace he had never known. The union that had once seemed a burden now felt like an opportunity to learn, to understand, and to grow alongside someone extraordinary. He knew the days ahead would bring challenges, but he also knew that he could face them with Zyra, not as a duty, but as a choice born from understanding and respect. That night, Ethan fell asleep beside Zyra, no longer burdened by fear or prejudice. He had seen her truly, and in doing so, he had discovered a beauty that surpassed all human standards, a beauty that was wise, compassionate, and courageous, shining brighter than any physical form could. The next morning, Ethan woke with a new sense of purpose. The events of the previous day and night had changed him. He no longer saw Zyra as merely different or ugly. He saw her as extraordinary. Her presence, intelligence, empathy, and courage had opened his mind to a form of beauty he had never known, a beauty that went far beyond the human definition. Zyra was already awake, standing near the balcony, gazing at the city below. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed softly with the rhythm of her calm breathing, reflecting the twin moons in a way that made her appear ethereal. When she noticed Ethan watching, she smiled gently, a simple gesture that carried warmth and confidence. "Good morning," Ethan said, his voice steady, calm, and honest. "Good morning, Ethan," she replied. "I trust you slept well." "I did," he said, glancing around their chamber. "More than I expected. I think I understand more about you now." Zyra's smile widened faintly. "Then you are beginning to see the truth of my world, Ethan. That is all I ask." Ethan followed her down to the palace's main hall, where the daily council meetings were held. As they walked, he noticed the subtle way Zyra interacted with the staff, the other officials, and the citizens. Every gesture was precise, graceful, and respectful, yet it carried authority, a quiet dominance that commanded attention without force. During the morning meeting, a sudden alert sounded across the city. Ethan's heart skipped a beat as he realized it was a security warning. Alien officials moved swiftly, and Zyra immediately took command. She analyzed the data projected in holographic displays, her eyes moving rapidly over figures and locations. Her mind worked with speed and precision, coordinating security forces and advising the council on how to handle the threat. Ethan watched in awe. This was the woman he had been told was ugly. And yet, here she was, a leader, a strategist, and a protector of her people. Her intelligence and courage radiated in every decision she made. Ethan felt admiration swelling in his chest. He realized that physical appearances meant nothing compared to the strength of character, wisdom, and bravery. The crisis turned out to be a minor rebellion at the city's outskirts, but Zyra's swift and clever actions prevented escalation. Citizens who had gathered outside watched as she coordinated the resolution with calm authority. When the immediate danger passed, she turned to Ethan. "You saw how my people respond to challenges," she said softly. "Do you understand now why appearances are only a small part of who I am?" Ethan nodded. I understand more than I ever thought possible. You are incredible, Zyra, truly incredible. Zyra's bioluminescent patterns pulsed softly in what seemed to be amusement. Thank you, Ethan. That is kind of you to say. After the crisis, Zyra decided to show Ethan more of her world beyond the palace. They traveled through the city together, walking through markets, gardens, and public squares. Ethan observed the beauty of her culture, the respect her people had for one another, and the subtle ways they interacted with the living environment. Each moment revealed more about Zyra, not just her abilities, but her values, her empathy, and her understanding of life. At one point, they visited a floating garden high above the city. Plants with translucent leaves shimmered with gentle light, and streams of liquid crystal flowed silently around them. Zyra explained how the garden was designed to balance life and energy, showing Ethan the interconnectedness of her world. You see, Ethan, Zyra said, beauty is not just a reflection of form. It is in balance, in harmony, in understanding and respecting life. This is what my people strive for, and this is what I try to live by. Ethan listened, captivated. He realized that her perceived strangeness was part of a deeper perfection. Every movement, every thought, every word was aligned with intelligence and grace. The human concept of beauty seemed shallow compared to this. As evening approached, they returned to the palace. Ethan had grown more comfortable with Zyra, not just as a companion but as someone whose mind and spirit fascinated him. The bond between them had deepened beyond mere duty. He felt genuine respect, trust, and even admiration. That night, as they sat together on the balcony, the twin moons casting silvery light over the city, Ethan finally spoke the thoughts that had been forming in his heart. Zyra, he began carefully, I have spent my life judging by what I see, by what is familiar. But you have taught me that beauty is far more than appearances. You are brave, intelligent, wise, and beautiful in every sense that truly matters. Zyra turned to him, her large, glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight. For a moment, Ethan feared he had overstepped, that she might recoil or correct him. But instead she smiled gently, a warmth that seemed to reach into his chest. You see me, Ethan, she said softly. Truly see me. That is all I could hope for. You have learned to look beyond the surface, and in that, you have found understanding. Ethan felt a wave of relief and joy. For the first time, he did not feel awkward, hesitant, or fearful. He simply saw Zyra as she was, a remarkable being, someone whose mind and spirit outshone anything he had known. Over the following days, their bond continued to grow. Ethan observed Zyra's interactions with her people, how she negotiated disputes, encouraged young leaders, and supported those in need. Every action reinforced the admiration he had begun to feel. He realized that her beauty was inseparable from her character. The very qualities that humans might overlook, intelligence, empathy, courage, were what made her dazzling. One day, a delegation of human officials arrived in the city to observe the alliance. Ethan noticed their cautious glances toward Zyra, some whispering about her appearance. He felt a surge of protectiveness and pride. Here was a woman whose presence, mind, and spirit were extraordinary, and yet some could not see past appearances. When the delegation addressed Zyra, she spoke with confidence, clarity, and wisdom. The humans were silent, their doubts fading as they realized the depth of her abilities. Ethan watched silently, his heart swelling with respect and admiration. He knew that what he had learned about Zyra was the truth of her character, the beauty that transcended superficial judgment. That evening, Ethan and Zyra shared a quiet moment in their chamber. They had faced challenges, observed each other's strength, and learned to trust one another. Ethan felt a warmth he had never known, a connection that went beyond duty or obligation. He realized that this partnership was not just political, it was personal, built on understanding and respect. Ethan, Zyra said, her voice soft, you have grown beyond the prejudices of your people. You see the world differently now, and for that I respect you greatly." "And I respect you, Zyra," Ethan replied earnestly. "Not just for who you are, but for how you teach me to see, to understand, to appreciate what truly matters." Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed softly, as if reflecting her emotions. She reached out, lightly touching his hand. "Then perhaps we are learning together." The next day, they faced a small political challenge, a faction of alien nobles questioning the human alliance. Ethan watched as Zyra addressed the council, calmly explaining her decisions, using reason and empathy to diffuse tension. His admiration deepened as he saw how she balanced firmness with compassion, authority with understanding. She was a leader in every sense, and her actions were the truest reflection of beauty he had ever known. Later, they returned to the balcony, watching the city glow in the night. Ethan felt a sense of peace and certainty. He had come to the alien world with fear, judgment, and hesitation. Now he understood. Zyra's beauty was not just in her form, but in her mind, her heart, and her courage. And he was proud to stand beside her, not as someone forced into marriage, but as someone who had chosen to see, to understand, and to respect. "Zyra," he said quietly, "thank you for teaching me, for showing me who you truly are. I see you now completely, and I admire you more than words can say." Zyra smiled, a soft, warm expression that reached her eyes and lit them with subtle glow. "And I see you, Ethan. You have learned to look beyond the surface, to understand, to respect. That is a rare gift, perhaps the rarest of all." Ethan felt a surge of warmth. For the first time, he did not feel burdened by duty. He felt honored, inspired, and connected. He realized that their union, once a matter of obligation, had become a partnership of mutual respect, understanding, and genuine admiration. That night, as they rested, Ethan reflected on the journey. The fear, hesitation, and prejudice he had carried were gone, replaced by understanding and awe. Zyra's beauty, he realized, was a combination of mind, heart, courage, and presence. It was a beauty that transcended human standards, a beauty that illuminated everything around her. As he drifted to sleep, Ethan felt a quiet certainty. He had learned that true beauty was not measured by what one could see, but by what one could perceive. Zyra had shown him the meaning of courage, wisdom, and empathy. And in doing so, she had revealed herself as more beautiful than he had ever imagined. In that moment, Ethan knew that he had not only married an alien princess, he had gained a partner, a teacher, and a friend. And that was more than he could have ever hoped for.